Although a hefty dose of controversy can cause some movies to bomb at the box office, plenty of others have made some serious bank despite ticking a load of people off. And some made it big because they annoyed people. So what are these movies, how much did they make, and just how did they cause so much controversy? Here are the most successful controversial movies of all time. Tom Hanks and Ron Howard may just be the two nicest guys in Hollywood, but the two still somehow courted serious controversy when they became attached to the screen adaptation of one of the most contentious and successful novels of modern times, The Da Vinci Code. While the scholarship behind the Da Vinci Code has largely been dismissed by experts, its central claims that Jesus Christ was secretly married to Mary Magdalene helped make the movie an international bestseller. The controversy surrounding the 2006 movie was largely the same for the 2003 novel, with people claiming it was both historically inaccurate and anti-Catholic. Critics panned it when it was released too, giving it a measly 25% on Rotten Tomatoes, and moviegoers weren't too impressed either, giving it a mediocre 57% audience score. Nevertheless, the film's popular source material was enough to score a $77 million opening weekend, and by the time it was out of theaters, it had earned a $217 million domestic haul, as well as an astounding $758 million worldwide gross. Studios didn't see any financial upside in Mel Gibson's graphic retelling of Jesus Christ's final hours, especially considering the actor-turned-director wanted to film in the dead languages of Aramaic and Latin. And since Gibson couldn't find financing for his passion project, he paid nearly $30 million on it straight out of his own wallet. But that was just the start of the firestorm. Leading up to The Passion of the Christ 2004 Ash Wednesday release day, the film became a lightning rod for controversy centered around its gory violence and alleged anti-Semitism. Regarding the former, Roger Ebert said, "This is the most violent film I have ever seen." Meanwhile, the Anti-Defamation League highlighted what they perceived as the movie's anti-Semitic views, saying, "The ramifications of this film will reach far beyond Hollywood, with the possibility that it will fuel new anti-Semitism." But for this movie, Gibson circumvented the traditional movie publicity route, instead targeting evangelical Christians, and his gamble paid off. The Passion of the Christ had an $83 million opening weekend, eventually earning $370 million domestically and $611 million worldwide. Paramount's Noah was one of the most high-profile religious releases in recent years. The 2014 film stars Russell Crowe as the titular ark builder in an adaptation of the story from the Book of Genesis. So what's the controversy here? While the film mostly used the biblical interpretation, controversy stewed over several elements, such as the film's environmentalist themes, the biblical Nephilim being portrayed as giant rock monsters, and perhaps most notably, the whole in the beginning creation story being equated with evolution.
The jewel in the Creator's palm. And the Creator made man. By his side, woman.
Oh, and director Darren Aronofsky is also an outspoken atheist, and even bragged that his film was the least biblical movie ever made. So yeah, you can see how that might have ruffled a few feathers, especially with Paramount, who were purposefully trying to appeal to Christian audiences. But Aronofsky's creative license wasn't enough to sink Noah with critics or the box office. The film garnered a 76% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It earned $101 million stateside and $362 million worldwide on a $125 million budget. Released in 2013, The Wolf of Wall Street was the fifth collaboration between director Martin Scorsese and star Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's basically 180 minutes of pure and adulterated debauchery. After all, for a movie to be considered controversial because of its content alone in this day and age, well, you know it has to be intense, and this movie really does have it all. Hard drug use? Check. Explicit content? Check. Extreme profanity? Double check. In fact, The Wolf of Wall Street holds a Guinness World Record for the most expletives used in a film. The F-bomb is dropped 506 times, for an average of 2.81 times per minute. But the controversy didn't just come from what was shown on screen. The film's producers also paid the US government $60 million after allegations that the movie was funded with money stolen from a Malaysian state investment fund. Jordan Belfort, whose own criminal activities are vividly depicted in the film, even called the producers criminals. If the producers were upset about paying $60 million, however, they were no doubt relieved when the film made $116 million domestically and $392 million worldwide. Basic Instinct may have been the 9th biggest domestic box office hit of 1992, but it was easily the most controversial. The film comes from two of Hollywood's most notorious provocateurs, director Paul Verhoeven and screenwriter Joe Eszterhas. For Basic Instinct, Eszterhas was paid $3 million, making it one of the most expensive original screenplays ever sold. Despite Eszterhas' multi-million-dollar payday, critics weren't impressed with the final film, but both Sharon Stone's performance and the film itself are remembered for one controversial scene in particular, the one in which Stone uncrosses her legs. It's hard to imagine an A-list actress doing a scene like that today, and it was pretty much unfathomable in 1992. But it paid off. Basic Instinct made $117 million domestic and $352 million worldwide on a $49 million budget. Joe Eszterhas earned his historic paycheck, and Sharon Stone proved risque content as a bankable commodity worldwide. Despite some fairly crazy sequel ideas, the Ghostbusters franchise remained firmly in developmental hell for nearly 30 years after Ghostbusters 2, and the first Ghostbusters film in almost 3 decades wasn't exactly a sequel that reunited Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and the gang as many had hoped. Instead, it was a reboot starring an all-female squad, featuring Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, and Leslie Jones. The film sparked controversy after just the first trailer, with criticism centering around Leslie Jones, the lone African-American on the team, playing a blue-collar worker and not a scientist like the others.
Screw that. We are scientists. Plus Patty.
The controversy didn't end there, though. Ghostbusters was attacked by hordes of internet fans before they had even seen the film, with many cultural critics suggesting the knee-jerk vitriol was a result of sexism. The film's director, Paul Feig, even went so far as to say, "Geek culture is home to some of the biggest I've ever met in my life." While most critics seemed to like it, giving it a 74% Rotten Tomatoes ranking, the audience score was a rotten 50%. However, that low score didn't really match up with the box office numbers. The film opened at number 1 with $46 million on its way to a $128 million domestic and $229 million worldwide tally. Alas, the film cost $144 million to produce, so while Ghostbusters made a lot of money as far as controversial movies go, it bombed as a summer blockbuster. Angels and Demons is a 2009 sequel to Ron Howard's 2006 blockbuster, The Da Vinci Code. Once again, Tom Hanks plays Harvard symbologist Robert Langdon, but this time the professor must work with a nuclear physicist to solve a killing and prevent a terrorist attack against the Vatican. Based on Dan Brown's controversial novel of the same name, the Vatican believed Angels and Demons was anti-Catholic and banned the production from filming in the Holy See. The Vatican even contemplated calling for a boycott. Tom Hanks didn't see what all the fuss was about, however, saying, "Everyone is looking for some scandal, whether a scandal exists or not. I think a kind of natural reaction is now that somehow, because it's the second Robert Langdon mystery, that there is some degree of controversy over it, and there is really not." However one feels about the controversy behind the movie, it clearly wasn't just a few Catholics who didn't like it. Critics panned it too, giving it a rotten 37% tomato meter score. Still, Angels and Demons made a whole heap of dough, $133 million stateside and $485 million worldwide, on a $150 million budget. James Cameron is easily one of the most bankable directors of all time, having directed the highest-grossing film ever twice. First was 1997's Titanic, which was sunk by Cameron's own Avatar in 2009. And while Cameron is able to make it rain, he's also good at stirring the pot. Case in point, True Lies. Released in 1994, True Lies is a remake of the French action comedy La Totale, and stars Arnold Schwarzenegger as a CIA agent who pretends to be a boring, mild-mannered computer salesman to his wife Jamie Lee Curtis. But Arnie's bizarre casting as a nerd wasn't that made True Lies so controversial. A loose coalition of Arab Americans called for a boycott of the film due to its depiction of the movie's Arab terrorist villains. The film was likewise decried as sexist because of Jamie Lee Curtis's infamous striptease scene. Controversy followed the film years after its release when Eliza Dushku, who played Schwarzenegger and Curtis's daughter, alleged she was assaulted by the film's stunt coordinator. Despite the controversy, past and present, True Lies made $146 million domestically and $378 million worldwide on a $115 million budget. Quentin Tarantino and controversy go together like, well, Quentin Tarantino and swearing. But it wasn't your run-of-the-mill foul language that sparked controversy in the wake of the director's 2012 film Django Unchained. No, this time it was the N-word, which was dropped more than 100 times during the film's nearly 3-hour runtime. Leonardo DiCaprio, who played cruel, racist slave owner Calvin Candy, was so uncomfortable the amount of times he had to say the word that his co-stars Jamie Foxx and Samuel L. Jackson had to intervene. The film's violence was also troubling to many audiences, in particular a scene in which a slave is eaten alive by dogs. For some reason, however, there wasn't much controversy about Tarantino's ridiculous decision to cast himself as an Aussie.
A little dynamite for you blockbuster flavors.
Despite the non-stop violence and profanity portrayed on screen, Django Unchained was a major hit, earning $162 million stateside and a staggering $425 million worldwide on a $100 million budget. Django Unchained was also a hit come awards season, earning 5 Oscar nominations and 2 wins for Christoph Waltz's supporting performance and Quentin Tarantino's original screenplay. There had been rumblings around the possibility of a Joker-centric film for some number of years before 2019, with Hollywood heavyweights Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio both rumored to have been attached at some point. When a film was finally announced, it would be with The Hangover's Todd Phillips directing and Joaquin Phoenix donning the grease paint. The reaction from fans was mixed. Then Joker did the unthinkable, winning the coveted Golden Lion at the prestigious Venice Film Festival. This put Joker, a comic book movie, in the same company as some of the most critically acclaimed and artistically respected films of all time. It was an achievement no other comic book movie or any other commercial blockbuster for that matter had ever accomplished. The talk was that Joker wasn't just a good movie, it was that Joker actually transcended its genre into the realm of high cinematic art. And almost immediately the controversy began. Around the same time the film was receiving euphoric praise, a counter-narrative was brewing that claimed Joker could potentially inspire violent, unstable loners into committing violent acts. Phoenix even walked out of an interview when he was asked if he thought the movie might inspire violence. Despite winning one of cinema's biggest prizes, the critical response was muted, with only a 68% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. However, moviegoers loved Joker, propelling it to a record-breaking $96 million opening weekend, nearly double its $55 million budget, giving Warner Brothers more than plenty to smile about. Check out one of our newest videos right here, plus even more Looper videos about your favorite movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.